Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you on this new webinar with Wow Kids. My name is Atul, and I'm a part of Wow Kids Preschool chain. I welcome all the viewers who are watching us live on Facebook today. Friends, one of the key questions that's going on in our mind is when the schools are going to reopen, or rather, from parents' point of view, when should they open? What shall be the new normal in schools when they open? Well, there is a lot of brainstorming already happening across the country. Different states are giving different timelines, which are still tentative. However, no one has an immediate answer on reopening. We all continue to watch news about success of vaccine trials and pray that we get vaccines as soon as possible. Friends, a lot of countries are managing this situation very differently. They have opened economies, they have opened schools, and they have taken several measures to cope up with the new normal. UK is one of the countries that is beginning to open their schools and educational institutions. Today, it's a pleasure to have Mr. Rob Fox
Hello there.
all the way from UK. He's an educationist and passionate about kids and parenting. He is early childhood visionary and runs a consultancy in the name of Active Childhood UK. He also has a Facebook page where he connects to various educators and help them share their views with other educators and parents. I welcome Mr. Rob Fox to this webinar with Wow Kids. Welcome, Rob. How are you
Atul,
today?
Atul, thank you very much for allowing me to join you. Namaste to you, my friends. Thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of this conversation.
Yes, thank you so much. And we are pleased that you have joined us. Rob, tell us something about yourself and what made you choose your career as an early childhood educator.
Atul, it's interesting, this question I get asked all the time, and it made me think back to the early days of my early years experience. I have a sister who's 8.5 years younger than me, and
Okay.
I had long school holidays, and I was given the opportunity to go and volunteer as a 16-year-old, going in to volunteer to listen to children read and also to do creative activities. And actually, I ended up running the sports because I'm a male. I was encouraged to go and do some football coaching and other things, and everything just came together like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't heading down this route. I just saw it as something to fill time. And then one of a passionate lady, I talk about her openly, my first mentor in the field, a lady called Jane Evans, she said to me, have you considered this as a career? You're enjoying yourself. You've got a true passion that's rare. Have you considered that as a career? And I said, but I'm never ever going to make any money from working with children. Why would I want to do that?
Right.
And that was my 16-year-old mindset. But I thought, you know what? It's the joy that children bring, the humor, the enjoyment of creativity. And actually, from an early on perspective, I really got to understand children's uniqueness in what they were producing and their work in the classroom. So fast forward to the September, I went on and did an ECE qualification. I'm not a predominant academic. I always preach that I'm not an academic. I'm a realist. I'm a practical guy. I started at the bottom with the vocational qualifications here in the UK. I gained a degree at 24. I've had my own hidden learning challenges that I talk about passionately on my page. But it was really pedagogy, my teaching style. I really had a connection with children early on and really believing in their capabilities. And Active Charters come out many years later. I'm very fortunate that I was able to. I taught in Italy for a while. I've taught in some top independent schools in Cambridge and London. And Active childhood was born when I was at university. I
Okay.
was often questioning perspectives of early childhood development and often getting frustrated that I was the only one who had this viewpoint. But this platform enabled me to be critical in my own reflections. Reflections is key. Reflecting is key, and something I will touch on today. Reflecting, empowering reflection in your own practice.
Okay.
Even with, we don't do it enough at all. We don't do it enough. We don't look at what we have. We don't seek out the good in all opportunities. And I found out this was an innate gift that I had to offer and something that I had to share with the world. Initially, I attended a conference in Canada and Iceland, and I got to network with other professionals around the world. Last summer, I left the classroom full time, and I was kind of going, where am I going? What am I doing with my life? And I became a regulatory inspector, going into daycare provisions, going in and being a licensee.
Fantastic.
This did not sit right with me.
Okay.
I miss the children too much. People say to me, Rob, you've got a career set up for life. I said, I know, but it doesn't sit right with me. I am one to support, I'm not one to judge. And they're two separate things altogether. So I went within 24 hours of leaving and being an inspector, I went back on the floor with the children. I went back on the floor with the children, and it was the best decision I've ever made.
Fantastic. So nice to know about you, Rob, that you followed your passion. You just didn't work for a job. You thought, that you will come back to early childhood education and pursue your dream with small children. Rob, what is the situation in UK on reopening of kindergarten and daycares as of now? What does it look like? Are the schools started opening, or what is the situation now?
More and more settings are open. We've been open over the period of lockdown for key workers, workers of the fire service, postal service, supermarket workers, who have been absolutely amazing to put on and get up and go to work with all preventions in the way. Obviously, we're aware of people that are shielding the vulnerable at the moment. So community has come together really to take aspect of that.
Yes.
So we've had bubbles, which are small groups of children,
Okay.
no more than 12 in a bubble, but predominantly we like, the preferred number is 8. What we say with it, there's guidance around this, but what we are saying is it has to fit your center.
Okay.
It has to fit your center and what's right for you. Obviously, we put the extra precautions in place, the cleaning, the hygiene, the washing your hands continuously, hand sanitizer, anti-bac. It's all stuff we do as early years, or should be doing as early years professionals. It's making sure that we are completely on top of that and encouraging our children to be that as well. It was interesting. Obviously we're so far down the line now, and we're seeing returns to nursery, return to school. Some settings didn't open for 12 weeks. And coming back in, I've been speaking to a number of different professionals that I work with as close allies, and there's been talk about masks. Should we wear masks or shouldn't we wear masks? Should we be able to sing a song with the children, or is, by singing in a confined space, is that going to be more liable to prevent risk? My answer to this is short and sweet, but it's what's appropriate to you. If
Okay.
you've got an outside space, sing in the outside space, because there's been research done around this virus that says the transmission of disease whilst you're outside is a lot less than it is on the inside.
Correct.
Don't.
And you can also maintain some kind of distance also if the children understand it. Outside, inside a classroom, they are already, very compact area. So I think in UK, when I visited last year, I found that most of the preschools and daycares had larger outside space, which is unlike, we don't have that much of space in our country. But yes, we can actually do some kind of arrangement because we have huge parking areas and front yard and backyard. It's very nice. Yes, please carry on. Yeah.
It's also about that term, social distancing, and tackling what that means head on. And what I mean by that is 2-year-olds, 1-year-olds, babies need connection.
Absolutely.
Need connection. And especially at this time where we're all unsure of where we're going, whether we're going to open or we're not going to open, we need connection, and children need it even more. I
Yes.
prefer the term physically distanced rather than socially distanced. Obviously, putting those steps in place, and I'm going to go back to the point of reflection. How purposeful are the experiences that we're offering to our children in the present moment? And what I
Hmm.
mean by that is, are we allowing children to sit for too long? Are we allowing them to have too much screen time? I was having an interesting chat with you, Atul, before we came online. And I think there is benefits in screen time. A lot. There are a lot of benefits. But
Okay.
what we need to do is how we utilize this screen time for the best outcome of your child. How is there learning that is organic? Because at the end of the day, the children hold ideas, they hold competencies, they hold theories and perspectives that adults can be taught.
Right. Right.
Are we listening to them intrinsically? And I go back on a quote, I go back to research all the time because I think it's important to reflect on what the pioneers in this industry have put forward to us. And this is by someone called Magda Gerber from Hungary. And it says, childhood is not a race to see how quickly a child can read, write, and count. Childhood is a small window of time to learn and develop at the pace which is right for every individual child.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And
As
it should not be a, you know, curriculum race that, oh, I have to complete this, in this particular time. You should focus on the learning, the real learning values and a lot of other things rather than just trying to push on completing the curriculum, which a lot of schools are still trying to do.
I think as well, it's recognizing our children's interests. What are our children's interests? What is the value of our children's interests right now? They're more so than ever. I know
Right.
we we've kind of we've gone how we open the setting, the use of masks, whether they should be used or not. It's up to you. With children's interests, it's innate. It should be innate to what we're doing when it comes to planning for them.
Right.
Are we planning to educate children through unrealistic expectations?
Absolutely. For
Are
small
we?
children, it's very difficult for the age group that we cater to. It is very difficult to explain them all this. They still want to go near their friends and they still want to hug their friends and their teachers, and it's going to be very difficult. Yeah.
But we were having this chat earlier, Atul, and I was saying, looking at this physically distanced term, if we've got the precautions of extra hand sanitation, if we've got, you know, I'm not advising you to go into your environments with a spacesuit on, because you're gonna scare the children.
Yeah.
You know, full PPA, full visor. If you are caring for children, put on an apron, put on gloves if you are changing their diaper. You know,
Yes.
it's important that, some of these things that occasionally get missed because
Correct.
you're doing one child after another, that time is taken.
Correct.
The importance of this pandemic, I think we were talking earlier about really slowing down, looking at things that you are grateful for in the present moment, taking time taking time to care and really innate the power of conversation,
Correct.
talking through the process. For learning is a process and not an end product. Learning is about the constant dialogue that we're
Dialogue. Absolutely. You need to be talking, and it has to be like speaking and listening. That's how it is.
listening, but also recognizing that listening can be done in so many different ways. Listening with your heart, listening with your soul, and listening with your mind. Listening with your body language.
Absolutely.
Listening is an ever powerful tool. And when I'm working with my toddlers and working on the floor day to day, and I'm going to give you some practical examples now, because I always like to go back to being practical rather than talking like I've stepped out of a theory book.
Yeah.
I believe in the importance of emotional literacy. I believe in reading to children. I believe in drawing children's emotions out. I believe in there's books that I share with my children that enable me to talk about their feelings, talking about what makes them feel that particular way. Why are they cross?
Yes.
They might be
Absolutely.
cross because daddy's got the remote control for the TV, or
Hmm.
they might be happy because they can finally make that connection with a peer on the screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
What Going back to the realities of this, it's something that we are all learning together. Mistakes are going to be made. It's
Definitely.
how we recognize the ability to pick ourselves back up. And I talk a lot about self-care on my page, Active Childhood, because
Yeah.
self-care comes at the heart of our practice. We care intrinsically for children. We care with passion. We care with all our determination that we need to get the right schedules in place. We need to do the research. We need to continuously learn. But you
You're
need to
right.
be mindful of burnout. You need to be able to from find something away from the screen. Find something away from your classroom environment. Really reading, whether reading be a relaxation method. I know we were talking earlier about yoga. Finding a time in your day for physical get up and go. Physical get up and go can also be done in the home.
Yes.
Cosmic kids yoga, yoga sessions, meditation sessions, free drawing, experiments, the endless opportunities
There
are
are.
in the drawer of the drawer of your office desk. There are boxes. What can a box be? So many things. I've got a box here. What can I turn it into? Is it a boat? Is it a plane? Is it a car? You know, and I always find myself to say that they're a mode of transport. But in two minds, it's the endless opportunities are the vehicles of learning. And I wish I quoted that. A good friend of mine, Alistair Bryce Clegg, quoted that being a vehicle to learning. But the person that needs to drive that vehicle is you.
Absolutely, we everybody.
It needs to be you, whether you be a parent, whether you be an educator or a carer of young children. We need to be the vehicle of change, and we need to make sure that we are listening and connecting.
So, very good points. I think so deep thoughts about care. I think you spoke about that. This is an opportunity where everybody should realize that kids are also spending more time with their families and their parents, not like what it was earlier. Because now there are very less parties. We tend to spend more time at home. So I think care and listening is something very very important during this time. We were also talking about something, the hug and that 9 minute prime time, when early morning, those 3 minutes are very very important for a small children. When they get up, then the next 3 minutes will be the time when the children come back to school from the school, and 3 minutes before they actually go to sleep. So these are the time when you should actually hug them, and you should reassure them, and things are going to be fine. And that will actually develop the emotional intelligence, or I will say they will understand to express their feelings also. That is, this is the very crucial time to do all this for parents. So Rob, about the lockdown, when the schools were closed, and even now, we want to know a little more about the online education, in this preschool and primary schools. What is the new normal? uh, Tell us something about the blended way, because we haven't used it in India. We have never, they were before 2.5 3 months, we were just normally, and we never talked about technology, use of technology with preschoolers. Now how has the UK embraced the change? Are the, during the lockdown, are the teachers connecting using Zoom or Microsoft Teams with small children? Do they tell stories the way they were telling when they were inside the school? How did that situation, what was the adaptation? Or there were no online classes at all for small children ever? So what are your views on this?
I've I've heard a number of different things, but small and manageable chunks of the day, really. I've heard of settings that have done registration time in the morning, where they've got to do registration in a small group. I the that them being in a small group is much better than there being a large number of children on the screen, and often the opinions can get lost. What
Yes.
I found is a friend of mine in I've got a number of different examples here. We've had um, we've had Google Teams, Microsoft Teams has been a very useful resource, Skype and Zoom, but like limited numbers. I think often we can think if we get everybody together, it's fine because they can see their friends, but often it can become like a sensory issue. Like there is so many people on the screen. I know there's a term called Zoom fatigue that's being quoted around, and we don't really want to be giving that to our children. So I,
Yes.
I guess
So I think
what,
there has to be there. That's where the screen time restrictions actually come into play. You can't have a small child sitting on the Zoom for the 4 hours. So just a small 30 minutes or 45 minute session with the
yes,
teacher. Then small recorded sessions are the things that we are doing.
yeah,
We do it.
and I like that aspect of small group times, small and relevant group times that are of extra value. But I also think it's an important aspect at all, and we spoke quite strongly about this, that the opportunities that you have in your home environment are strong. There's not a worksheet, or I'm going to be quoted work shit, and that's controversial because there is not a one worksheet that will be the ultimate tick box answer. Learning is happening all the time. Your child learns it every day of their lives. They learn something different. Getting back to child development and connection, synergy. And I'm going to make a point here. We were talking about the connection at various times of the day, but don't feel that to be the only time you can offer a hug. Because if I fall over and scrape my knee, or I'm running and I fall over, I may feel upset. And actually, to be upset is okay. Offer the emotional model. Big, we often hear phrases of boys don't cry. We
Correct.
do cry. We do cry. Even at 29, I cry. If something upsets me,
Everybody
I
cries.
let it out. We don't allow that for our small boys, or
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be our small boys, small girls as well. Mum doesn't cry. Amount of times we've heard that. It's a hard time that we are going through. Connection is key, but connection needs to be in smaller groups. Connection needs to be in relevant experiences to support their personal, social, and emotional development. And probably in the next question that we talk about, I will go into some examples of how we can support personal, social, and emotional development at this time to nurture the child holistically, to put value back in the center of their competencies and their beliefs in oneself.
Right. So, how about blended way of learning? Are the schools which are opening, are they having full strength of children coming right now, or they will be partially coming in stages like 10 in a day and then alternate day? How is, what is the
I heard of some settings doing, if they've got the big enough space, then I will post some links to our requirements over on my Active Childhood page, and I will share the relevant guidance with you. Some have decided that, to swap the bubbles. So we may have 10 in the morning or 10 in the afternoon, and swap. Some centres which are full daycare programs. I was just on the phone to a good friend of mine. Her setting is back open to 150 children, and there is social distance. There is physically distancing happening. Parents aren't allowed into the centre.
Okay.
That all staff, management deliver the children to the door and take, almost shuttle them to and from the front door. And the only connection they have is through a written piece of paper of what that child's done that day, or an online learning tapestry type software that records the children's learning whilst they've been in the setting. And this is a large organization with, like I said, 150 children and countless staff.
Great. So, see, the schools are closed in our country, and it doesn't look like that they will open in, say, a month or so. We're not sure when they will open because the cases are increasing day by day. So let's see how it shapes up. But children are stuck in their houses. What are the suggestions that you have? For the parents, basically to take care of the behavior issues of children when they are at home. because a lot of parents are working from home right now. So, as a early childhood educator, what are the things that you can tell our parents?
I'm going to start with a phrase, and I'm going to start with this statement: home is where the heart is.
Right.
Home is where the heart is. Maria Montessori talked about the parent being the first educator of the child. We are busy, but these are times that we're not getting back. And I think it's important that we look at this issue at all. What are our experiences of our own childhood? I don't have all the answers to say, but when I reflected on children being stuck at home with their parents, what opportunities can be provided for them? And actually, it's about allowing time to be. The art of being is enough right now. And I guess when we're talking about challenges or tantrums, it's down to our own expectations, and our own, and cross culture. We need to tackle this because our own expectations drive children's mood. They drive children into conformity. I'm going to reflect on this now. Vygotsky, 1981. He's a pioneer in the field. It is through others that we develop into ourselves. So if we look at our families, and our families are the people that we are with right now as a young child, how effectively are we scaffolding our environment to sit at the heart of our child? Are we allowing for too much time away? Are we isolating our children? Yes. Are we giving them a voice? Not all the time.
Not all the time.
Not all the time. And they need a voice because actually they're the future generation who are going to be paramedics. They're going to be doctors, but they may be even the local person who works in the local supermarket. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Where I really want to reflect on this is it frustrates me. Tantrums is a word. Tantrum or challenging behavior is something that's out there that gets coined too much. But it's actually the understanding of self-regulation. And you may be looking at me now going, who is this crazy guy from England who come on and talked about self-regulation? Self-regulation was the most fundamental element that I learned about as a young practitioner in dealing with those challenging situations. No child is naughty. I said the N word. It's a process. It's a behavioral process. No child is cranky. Evidently, it's down to our own expectations as adults. Can we just reflect for a matter of 1 minute? What is missing? I tell you, it's the understanding of our own childhood. Why do we see the big movements of hitting, slapping, even biting with our youngest of toddlers as a negative behavioral trait? Dr. Stuart Shankar, I'm just gonna read some research here, and then just reflect back on it. Dr. Stuart Shankar, 2019, so only last year, defined self-regulation as the ability to manage stress and neural processes that control the energy expanded to deal with stressors and then recover. When an individual's stress levels are too high, various systems for thinking and metabolic recovery are compromised. The sign of dysregulation shows up in the behavior or mood or attention, as well as physical well-being. No child is naughty. No
Every
child is
child
challenging. It's
would
how
know.
we fix this in the moment. It's
Right.
how we fix this in the moment and relate. So practically drawing out their emotional intelligence, understanding the way they learn so deeply. Howard Gardner talks about multiple levels of intelligence. Intelligence is not a tick box. Intelligence comes from within. Intelligence comes in multiple strands.
Absolutely.
We as learners and educators look at individual learning styles of our own, of children. What about if we did that ourselves? What would that look like?
Correct.
And I tell you, the utmost respect would be given for everybody on an inclusive level. It's down to your setting, your environment around you to ensure that things are developmentally appropriate in all aspects. That children aren't being driven to conformity, that are beyond their years. To recognize and to preach that a childhood belongs from within. The
Right.
childhood is unique in every different way, and there isn't one answer that will fix it. You know, children behave in certain ways, and there are children who, you know, it's a pattern of behavior. It's a continuous pattern of behavior that they might be portraying a schematic trait. They might be doing something over and over again. It's a process. So, what I think we need to take from this today, the 5 domains of self-regulation are biological, they're emotional, they're cognitive, they're social, and they're pro-social. And the pro-social element is difficulty in coping with other stress, feelings of injustice, empathy. How empathetic are we when we understand that your child has just hit another child in the home for the 15th time? How do you respond with a smile on your face and say, that's okay?
Right.
It's a learning process. And I will reiterate that. It's a process. Embrace the process. Be relevant. Don't live in the expectation of your own beliefs as an adult, because they're not doing it to annoy you. They're not doing it to piss you off. They are doing it because they are learning. And what needs to be given is value in the time, value in listening. Like I said earlier, listening with the soul, listening with the mind, listening with your body, taking care of yourself to respond appropriately, and actually dealing with it developmentally. I always say it's time for time in.
Right.
Time into your children's emotions. Tune in, not time out. Because actually that has negative connotations to children's emotional intelligence, and you could be impacting childhood trauma upon them. And that's the truth. Atul,
Absolutely.
thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Oh, great. I think very insightful, deep thoughts coming all the way from you, Rob. And I think you spoke a lot about emotional intelligence and, listening skills, listening of the parents, and parents trying to, parents trying to understand the feeling of the child rather than, just terming the child naughty and other thing. This is the time when children need to be embraced. They need to be emotionally, connect with the parents, because you are spending more time right now during this time. So I think very deep thoughts. Great, thank you so much,
Atul,
Rob.
before I go, I want to share one last reflection.
Sure, sure.
Children, for the ways in which we are encountered them, are the first great researchers. If we are capable of listening to them, children can give us back our pleasure in wonder. In marveling in doubt, children can convey the joy of search and research, which belongs not only to children, but to men and women, to humankind. It belongs to life. And that's Carlina Rinaldi and the pedagogy of Reggio Emilia. And that's something I would love to explore with you on another occasion, if you allow me.
Sure, sure. Why not? Yes, yes. Thank
So,
you,
my
Rob.
friends, namaste.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much
much
for
for your
being, and
time.
to all the viewers for watching us this on this webinar. I hope you all have a great evening and stay safe, and we will connect with you again. Thank you so much, Rob. You have a nice day. Okay.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you very much to this
Thank
wonderful
you. Thank you.
audience for
Thank you.
listening. Have a great